Welcome to Wet Fraternity. In this video, we are going to continue the diabetes mellitus. We are going to talk about glucose curves. This is a very important topic, a point regarding MCQs, because after you have diagnosed the patient, now when you have injected the insulin, you have to regularly check at what dose rate animal should be maintained at and how you are going to maintain that, how often you are going to give the follow up or regular checkups, like to see the insulin dose that you are using animal is stable on that or not, because once a diabetic always a diabetic, that animal is going to stay diabetic for its entire life, and you have to maintain the animal on the like this insulin. For cats and dog, normal glucose level is 60 to 125 mg per deciliter. Cutoff for cat is 280 and cutoff for dog is 180. That means cutoff means that above this level, this cat and dog, cats and dogs are considered diabetic. Then we have a term called nadir. Nadir means lowest value, lowest achievable blood glucose after insulin dosing cycle. Like you have given an insulin shot, and then insulin will bring down the glucose level, and the lowest level that is achieved by that dose is called as nadir. You should also remember that nadir, for dog and cat, there is a range in which that nadir should fall. For dogs, it's 80 to 150, and for cats, it's 80 to 200 mg per deciliter. Let's see this graph. So let's talk about cat. Cat has a cutoff value as 280. So, and another range is 80 to 200. This is 80 and this is 200. You have given the cat insulin. Cat was like in having glucose as more than 280. Let's say it was 300 here. You have given insulin, and the uh, insulin start to sorry cat's glucose starts to get slow, and the minimum level that is achieved is 90. After that 90, it starts to increase again and then goes up. Then you have to give the second shot of insulin, and then it start to get decrease and then again increase, then the next dose of insulin, because we have seen that insulin is given twice a day, uh, mostly in the chart we have seen in the previous video above. So this is 90. Okay, that is another point, the lowest point achieved. But what there are two things now over here. If you have given the insulin, and insulin lowers the glucose, but it does not comes below 200, it means you are giving very low dose, then increase your dose. Similarly, if you have given the insulin, and insulin brings glucose down, and it brings glucose down so much that it gets lower than 80, that means your dose is very high, then you have to reduce the dose of insulin. So that's why these glucose curves are very important. And again, you can see this point, that adjust the dose if nadir is too low, because too low means that there is risk of hypoglycemia. And based on that thing, we have to see that what we do, we manage the timings of the meals, our injections, the doses, and then we keep on interpreting the glucose curve. All of these things are very important, because if the dose is going to be very high, hypoglycemia can happen, and if dose is very low, you are not going to have any effect. A blood just a second. Okay, a blood sugar level below 80 mg per deciliter during blood glucose curve signifies hypoglycemia and necessitates a reduction in insulin dosage, regardless or the presence or absence of clinical signs. So you must then lower the dose rate. Also, talking about nadir occurs 4 to 8 hours post insulin injection based on type of insulin. That means if you have given the insulin 4 to 8 hour post injection, we must have 110 to 90 mg per deciliter, but not below 90, because I have told you below 90 is 80, and below 80 you means you have sent the animal to the hypoglycemia. So, and like above range for dog is 150 and it's 200. So just like in a range of 110 to 90, you must be having the curve. If below 90, then reduce the insulin dose. So nadir, or the lowest achievable point is mostly happens 4 to 8 hours post insulin injection. If severe hypoglycemia, let's say, happens after insulin, what are going to be the signs? The signs are going to be of lethargy or weakness, tremors or ataxia, that is called as incoordination, disorientation or mental dullness, seizures in severe cases, coma, and death. All of these signs can cause severe hypoglycemia, or like indicating severe hypoglycemia that is happening. There is a term named as smoggy effect, smoggy response. Basically, it's a rebound hyperglycemia due to hypersecretion of counter-regulatory hormones, glucagon and epinephrine during a hypoglycemic episode. So what happens? You have given the overdose of insulin, hypoglycemia happens, and because of that, there is going to be these fight and flight hormones like glucagon and epinephrine. They start to get secreted in the body, and they increase the glucose production, causing rebound hyperglycemia. So this is Smoggy effect. This is an important concept you should know. Then blood glucose curves. Okay, these blood glucose curves are done every for 7 to 10 days after initiation of treatment. So you have diagnosed an animal, you started treatment today. So next 7 to 10 days, you are going to have these curves, and after that, you are going to maintain the animal on that dose. Then in any stage of life, if there is any insulin adjustment or change in dose, then on that day, starting from that day to next 7 to 10 days, you are again going to have these charts done. Blood glucose curve is basically a measurement of serial glucose levels every 1 to 2 hours following feeding and insulin administration over 8 to 12 period. So how in those 7 to 10 days, what you do? Okay, now you have given the food, then you have given the insulin. Start every 2 hours, start taking the glucose, start measuring blood glucose, and start to have the record of that and make a chart of that. So that's how you are going to make the blood glucose curves. And even in this thing, like for the first day you can do it in the hospital, and the next days you can train your owner that they can perform this and make these curves at home also. Once patient is stable, no need for monthly glucose curves. They are on the stable insulin dose. Only when the signs will reappear, then you are going to recheck. So that was all about glucose curves. I hope you understood the concept of these things, because that is very, very, very important for the paper point of view. Any MCQ regarding in that scenario can come in your exam. Next thing is diet. A dog with diabetes mellitus may be overweight or underweight. In either, near ideal weight is a reasonable goal. So our goal is to attain a near ideal weight. Insulin is an anabolic hormone, and insulin treated diabetes gain weight easily, making weight loss in an obese dog with diabetes mellitus difficult. So basically, insulin is an anabolic hormone. When you start treating the animals, if the animal is having low weight, it's easy for him that he will start to gain weight. But if it is an obese animal, you have to treat animal with insulin, but you also are worried about the obesity of the animal. But that situation is going to be tricky, because along with injecting insulin, it's difficult for animal to lose the weight. So for obese dog, feed diet rich in insoluble fiber, low fat, and have decreased calorie density. So that will help you out in decreasing the body weight. Such diet should not be fed to an underweight diabetic mellitus dog. So you should, this point is just for the obese animal, not the underweight animal. Because the goal for the underweight animal is insulin as well as to gain weight. Once glucose control is established and near normal body weight is attained, owners should provide a consistent, calorie dense, and low fiber diet designed for maintenance. So then you start to have a maintenance diet. Overall, you can say that obesity and hypertriglyceridemia causes insulin resistance. Yeah. Adipose tissue has anti-insulin effects. We have discussed that in the previous video. It predisposes to diabetes mellitus, making management difficult. And the diet should have low glucose or carbohydrate, increased protein, increased fiber, and minimized fat to avoid circulating cholesterol, triglyceride-free fatty acid. Restricted fat in case of concurrent pancreatitis or persistent hyperlipidemia. So minimize fat in normal diabetes mellitus animal, but if it's concurrent pancreatitis or hyperlipidemia, then restricted fat. That term should be used. You have to feed 2 meals of equal size just before each insulin injection. Insulin is given in twice a day, like the normal intermediate insulins are normally given twice a day. So first give food and then give the insulin injection, because if you have given the insulin and animal is not in the mood of eating food, then he will go to the hypoglycemia. So to avoid that situation, feed animal first and then give the insulin. Remission is possible in the diabetic cats, 30% in general population, and 80% in acromegaly induced diabetic mellitus. You should grow know this point. Also, remission in is rare in dogs except in pregnancy and progesterone related diabetes mellitus, because that is a short term condition that will resolve later on. Then the last points, the exercise, consistent exercise usually makes diabetes mellitus management easier. Physical activities decreases blood glucose concentration by increasing insulin absorption from injection site, increasing blood flow and insulin delivery to exercising muscles. But a sporadic strenuous exercise can induce hypoglycemia and should be avoided. So, if like a normal exercise should be done, but if it is sporadic one, it will throw animal into hypoglycemia. Then comes prognosis. It depends upon owner's commitment, ease of glycemic regulation, concurrent disorders, and complications. So that was all about like diabetes mellitus. I hope you understood the lecture. I know the lecture went a bit longer, but every point regarding this disease is very important, because this disease is important for the paper point of view. Thank you all for watching. Best of luck for your exam.